Hello friends, channel subscribers and flight sim enthusiasts. Welcome back to another video in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It is an exciting day. 40th year anniversary is released and everybody is, I believe, excited about the A310 from Inibuilds, which was provided to the flight sim community for free. This is a high fidelity Airliner, and we will be looking at the cockpit, familiarize ourselves with the panels, and do a cold and dark startup and set up the flight management computer. I wish I had enough time to record a full flight tutorial, but this will be divided into sections where first we power on the aircraft and program the flight management computer and take a look at the cockpit and familiarize ourselves. And the next episode we will taxi to the runway and then take off, climb until cruise, and then maybe the third episode will focus on descent, approach and landing. It is kind of loud out here. The live traffic is provided by FSLTL and you are hearing various aircraft moving around, maybe taking off, maybe landing. I'm not sure what's happening. I can't see it right now, but we will jump into the cockpit to get some more silence and start discussing the cockpit layout and then powering on the aircraft. Without further ado, let's jump into the cockpit and get started. Alright, I guess this is better. Less loud, and I will adjust the volume when I'm editing the video so that you guys are not deafened or hearing these too loud, and I hope my voice is loud enough for you guys to follow along. Beautiful aircraft, in my opinion, has a lot of good system simulation. It comes with an EFB and a retro look, almost I would say like the 146 Professional. It is looking identical in various parts of the cockpit. The difference is this is a glass cockpit which was introduced, and this aircraft first flew in 1983, so quite old, and the systems are going to show its age, and Inibuilds has done a great job simulating these systems as they were back in 1980s, 1990s. We will start with the overhead panel, take a look at the overhead panel layout, and then come down to the glare shield and the instrument panels, and then pedestal, and we'll take a look at the circuit breakers and the seat behind the co-pilot seat. There's a panel which I want to show just one thing there, and then from there we will just try to start the aircraft from cold and dark. Let's go and start taking a look at the overhead panel. I need to adjust my view a little bit for you guys to see a little bit better, and I'm not using a controller to adjust the camera view, so sorry about the keyboard clicks if you are hearing those. But we'll start with the overhead panel and do from left to right, top to bottom, and discuss what these panels are. At the very top, you'll see the first IRS switch. Below that, the IRS display and the system display. I think there's a typo there. DYSPL. Maybe not, but it looks like DSYPL. Might be the correct way. Maybe they will fix it in a future update if that's a typo. Below that is the flight recorder. Below the flight recorder, these are various flight control systems that controls the spoilers and speed brakes, pitch and rudder, slats and flaps, and servos. Below this panel is the hydraulics panel. blue, green, and yellow systems, and they are dedicated gauges to display the hydraulic pressure status of the hydraulic system. Below the hydraulic system, we have the light switches for storm light, dome light, and the brightness, dim or bright, and then the MAC call, which is in up or not modeled, and then seat belt and no smoking signs down below. Moving up to the second part of the overhead from the left, we have the high frequency radio at the top, cockpit door controls. I think these are the lights. I haven't tested them thoroughly, so I'm just guessing here. Electrical panel indicators, where you have the AC and DC system. AC is on the left, DC is on the right, and this knob controls the first bus 1, bus 2, essential bus, and emergency power. Generator 1, generator 2, these are engine generators, and then APU generator and external power. External power is automatically enabled by default, so if we go to the external power and power on the batteries, we should see the external power displayed here. Right next to it is the DC electrical indicator panel, where you have the battery voltages for 3 batteries on board this aircraft, the essential bus, transformer rectifier 1 and 2. These are the transformers that converts AC power to DC power, and then the essential bus. Down below is the fire handle for left engine, and then the agents to discharge the agents, the squibs. Below the fire handle, we have the electrical panel, where we see the battery override switch. Standby generator is usually left on auto, but you can override this if you want to. 3 battery switches for 3 batteries on board the aircraft. AC essential bus, AC emergency bus indicators, and DC essential bus 1 and 2. Down below is the override supply switches for 1 and 2, buses 1 and 2, and then the generator switches and external power switch. Down below that, we have the galley power, and then I'm not sure what these two are, but they are not modeled anyway. Below that is the pitch trim and yaw damper switches. They are switches in this aircraft, not automated like the A320, and then the ATS switches. Down below that we have the NTI systems for engine NTIs and wing NTIs, and then the exterior light switches are located below that panel. Going up again, this is our third IRS system. Second one is on the co-pilot side, so 1, 2, and 3. Flight recorder, or cockpit voice recorder, I'm sorry. Landing gear backup lights for the 3 greens, and then the VHF or COM3 radio is located here. Down below that is the APU fire handle and the agent switches to discharge, and then there's a reading light that you can turn on. Down below the reading light we have our fuel panel, engine APU and engine 1 engine APU and engine 2 fuel valves, crossfeed valve, isolation valves, and the pump switches for outer, inner, and center pumps, as well as the trim pump. This aircraft has a trim tank. It automatically transfers fuel to keep the center of gravity at aft, like the Concorde. If you remember the Concorde, or if you have watched any videos about the Concorde, this aircraft uses the trim tank to transfer fuel from the main tanks to the trim tank to control the center of gravity. Down below that is our onboard fuel display, and then engine starter panel, where we have the starters 1 and 2, and then APU starter and fuel pump, APU master switch, and then the wipers down below that. Going up again to the third panel, We have the second high frequency radio here, cockpit door controls, ventilation, vent system switches, and then the fire handle for right engine, and the switch to discharge the fire agent. Below that is our crew oxygen system. This is modeled and works. Cargo compartment smoke detection, this also works. And then down below is our probe heat and window heat switches. Coming down, we have the pressurization system. It has two different systems, 1 and 2, and you can turn on and off. These are those switches to turn a specific system off. I will take a look at this, and then this is the rate limiter, which is set to normal at the moment. Going up again, we have the second IRS system, packs, and then the AC and the temperature control panel over here. Hot air supply, valves for packs, ram air, and etc. Down below is our bleed air system for engines and APU, and emergency exit lights defaulted to arm position, and then annunciator light test switch, and then standby compass light switch. So that's the entire overhead, maybe in a nutshell. Going down below, we'll start from left to right and top to bottom. On the left, we have some dimmer switches for different lights, such as floodlights, map lights, main instrument and instrument floodlights, etc. We have the captain's switch panel over here. In the middle, we have the airspeed indicator. This is the DME and the VOR. Altimeter, captain's altimeter, ADF down below, a clock and a timer here, vertical speed indicator, and upper and lower PFDs, or PFD and ND. Going to the main control panel, we have the brightness switches for PFD and ND. We have the flight director switch, as well as VOR, nav, and ILS switches, which we will discuss later on. Right next to it is our EFIS panel, where we have the decision height, flight path angle switches, as well as mode selector for the ND, and then the range selector and different options that we can put on our navigation display. Right next to it is our autopilot panel, where we have the speed, altitude, heading, vertical speed, and autopilot engage switches, or on and off switches, and then the various autopilot modes, which are similar to Airbus A320, with the exception of profile, which is the VNAV for this aircraft, where it follows a calculated profile for climb and descent. Excuse me. EFS panel for the co-pilot, brightness switches for the co-pilot, and that's about it for the MCP. Here we have the standby altimeter, we have the standby artificial horizon, brake pressure gauge for the accumulator, auto brake panel, and then engine instruments. We have the thrust management system, TMS, if you similar to 146, if you will, and then landing gear indicators, and co-pilot's instrument on the other side, same as the pilot. Over on this side, we have some knobs for brightness for the co-pilot side of the floodlights and etc. And we have the oxygen mask of the co-pilot down below, and we have the oxygen mask for the pilot over here, which can be tested as well. At the back, I forgot to tell, we have the ram air turbine that you can operate if you lose all the power to the aircraft. Ram air, the air coming or the air generated by the aircraft's speed is rammed into a turbine to spin the turbine to generate power if you lose all the power to the aircraft. So that's an emergency measure that's in place. Over on this side, we have two flight management computers, two VOR radios, and an ILS radio. Standard throttle quadrant here with thrust levers, speed brake, flaps, trim wheel, parking brake, and engine switches. In the middle pedestal, we have the VHF radios or COM radios 1 and 2, our transponder, audio panel over here to select various audio sources, ECAM status page switches to switch to different pages on the ECAM display, and our ADF radios 1 and 2 down below, brightness for the overhead and pedestal, and the weather radar is located over here. If we circle back to the behind the co-pilot, there are 3 gauges over here that I think is important to mention. These are the APU gauges where it shows the EGT of the APU, and 2 I believe, and then oil pressure of the APU. Nothing over here is modeled or clickable, and these gauges, except these gauges, they do work when you start the APU. But that's the cockpit and all the panels and the instrumentation in a nutshell. Obviously, we have the EFB on both sides as well, which is nice, simple and functional, I would say. There is no SimBrief integration, as far as I know, at this point in time. Hopefully, in the future, they will work on that and bring it over and have SimBrief integration to import the flight plans. That also goes for Navigraph integration too, so if you want to display the charts, that's not possible at this point. So that's about the cockpit, all the panels, instrumentation, etc. And next step, we are going to attempt to power this aircraft from cold and dark. Before we power the aircraft or we do the electrical power-up procedure, we need to check a couple things. And to do that, we need to jump to the overhead panel. And we have to check a couple things here, such as the wipers in the off position, external power is turned off, IRS switches are off, passenger signs and external lights are off. Down below at the pedestal, we have the parking brake set, speed brakes retracted, flaps are retracted, throttle levers are at the idle position, and engine cutoff switches are in the off position. That's all we need to check as far as I remember, and we can now go ahead and power the aircraft. To do that, I think I need to get closer to the electrical indicator panel. We'll check the battery voltages first. Battery 3 reads right about 28 volts. Battery 2 is similar, and battery 1 is similar. These will change over time and they will have different readings, and it is simulated as far as I saw on and read. But for now, the battery voltages are looking good, and we can go ahead and turn the battery power on. This will supply DC power to the aircraft. You'll see the lights coming on and batteries will start discharging, and we need to get and provide AC power to the aircraft as soon as possible. I have GSX. We can request external power, which is already connected, like the fly-by-wire A320. I don't think there is an GPU outside. Well, there is one down there, so I think that's what it is. Not sure why our jetway is disconnected, so let's connect the jetway again. Alright, so we have external power. Let's assume it is connected. We'll turn the external power on, and that will provide AC power to the aircraft, and our batteries will start charging. So before doing our overhead flow, we will do some other things that are out of sequence to save ourselves some time, and those are turning the nav lights to system 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. We'll also turn the wing light on because it's kind of dark outside, and we will leave the other lights as is. We'll go to the overhead, top of the overhead, and we'll turn the IRS switches to now system 1, system 2, and system 3. We'll change this knob to heading status, and we'll go down to the FMC. It says align IRS. It is expecting us to enter some information before it can align. We'll check the navigation database while we are here. It is the valid database, which is fine. We go to the init A page by pressing this once. We are currently at Amsterdam, Echo Hotel Alpha Mike, and our destination is Oslo, Echo November Golf Mike. And we will plug it in here, return, and we will select align IRS. This should start aligning our IRS system. If we go to the overhead, we should see how many minutes left. That's 7 minutes until full alignment, and now we can start doing our overhead flows. I'll move the view a little bit. Again, sorry about the mouse clicks and keyboard clicks. I need to set up a view that shows the overhead like this. We'll start from top to bottom, left to right, and do our flow. IRS switch is at nav, 7 minutes to alignment. Flight recorder, we don't touch this. Spoilers, this panel, as we discussed, is various flight management computers or flight computer systems. We will leave them as is. Fault lights are okay for now. If you remember the Airbus, it has a lights out layout or setup where if it's a white light, which in this case means this switch is not in the expected position and you need to press the switch or turn the knob to extinguish this light. Let's continue. Hydraulic panel, it is looking okay. You can turn the electrical pump to pressurize the system if you are low on hydraulic pressure, but looks like we are in the green band on all three systems, blue, green, and yellow, so it is not necessary. Down below, passenger signs, we are going to turn them on when we refuel the aircraft. Nose making can come to auto. Go to the top, high frequency radio, we don't change this. We can check the AC system for external power. We are reading close to 118 volts and 400 hertz. That is correct. And we can also check the essential bus is powered. Bus 1 and bus 2 is powered, so nothing to worry here. Fire test, we will do it prior to starting the engines. Electrical power, we have already did what we need to do here. Everything looks okay. Gen 1, Gen 2 is showing fault, which is fine. We can turn on the galley power so that the flight crew can start preparing the drinks and food, whatever they need to prepare. This will provide power to the galley. We can turn the yaw damper on. Pitch trim, we have to wait until the IRS is aligned, because if I turn them on, they will turn themselves back off. IRS needs to be aligned for this to work. Anti-ice, we don't do anything here just yet. And then exterior lights, we have done that already. Going up again, third IRS system is in align mode. Cockpit voice recorder, we don't do anything here, or we don't test it. That's a maintenance team responsibility. Backup landing gear lights are reading 3 green or showing 3 green. APU fire handle, we can test the APU fire as we will be eventually starting APU while we are here. That's working. We can also check the agent. It is working as well. Reading light, we can get some light if we want to. Fuel panel, we don't have to do anything over here. And the other thing I need to, explain is, you see how these switches are connecting these green lines. showing how the system is flowing or how the fuel is flowing in the system. That's the cross-feed valve that's currently closed. You can turn it on to transfer fuel from left to right, but it is not necessary. It needs to stay like this as far as I know. Fuel pumps will remain off until we are ready to start the engines. This is to prevent wear and tear, because we don't have a use for fuel pumps right now, and we will turn them on when we are ready to start the engines. Fuel quantities in our tanks can be checked here. It is reading okay, and engine starter panel, nothing to worry about here until we are ready to start the APU. We'll come back to this later on. Back to top, cockpit door is in the unlock or norm position. This doesn't mean the door can be opened from outside. When it's closed, it's closed. Ventilation system is showing normal. We'll turn the oxygen system or crew oxygen supply on. This should read above 1400 psi, and the gauge is times 1000 psi, so that's 500, 1000, 1250, 1500, 750, and 2000. It is reading about 1250, close to 1400. That is within the limits. Down below, nothing to worry about with the cargo compartment smoke detection. Probe heat will remain off for the time being, same as for the window heaters, unless it is below freezing outside. Pressurization system, we don't have to do anything here. Remember we discussed there are two systems for pressurization, and if I turn system 1 off manually, it will automatically switch to system 1, and if I do that for system 2, it will switch to system 1 automatically, which means both systems are working and auto transfer is also working. Back to top, pack temperatures, nothing to worry here. We don't have any bleed air coming right now. Compartment temperature or temperature panel, we can check the temperature in different areas of the aircraft: cargo, bulk, aft cabin, mid cabin, forward cabin, and I think I'm reading about 10 degrees Celsius, which is kind of cold. We haven't started boarding yet, so we should fire up the APU and start warming up the cabin. It will stay at auto, we don't have to do anything. Packs are showing fault, bleed air is not on, so packs will show fault until we have bleed air system working. Speaking of which, we don't do anything over here just yet. Emergency exit lights should be in the arm position, which they are. We can test the annunciation lights, and you heard the wind shear warning. All our lights are working just fine. That is now tested, and we can go back to bright, and we can turn on the standby compass light. It's a little bit dark, so I think it makes sense to turn it on. Alright, that's the overhead flow done. We have a checklist that we can follow as well, but we have a couple more things to continue to do before we do the checklist. So we will finish these flows and verify it by going through the checklist. While we are here, let's set our fuel, passengers and cargo. We will be taking 10.3 tons of fuel. It's a bit hard to adjust. 10.3, we will have 218 passengers, I believe. Let me check the flight plan. 213 passengers. We will set it, and then we will have 5.3 tons of cargo on board. We will set that too. There is no live loading of aircraft, so you just select your payload and then hit apply, and that will load the aircraft. Alright, so that's our fuel, passengers, etc. Even if we have loaded the passengers, we will assume that we haven't started boarding yet, but we can turn on the seatbelt signs on. We can turn the seatbelt signs on, and we can go down and start programming our MCP, or flight management computer, I'm sorry. Init page, we will come back to init B when the aircraft has the IRS aligned. But for now, we will worry about our flight plan. Our departure from Amsterdam, we'll select our standard instrument departure first, and we will start with that. We are expecting to depart from runway 18 left via the ND3 Echo departure. We will insert this, and that will fill the waypoints for us. Endik, that's our last waypoint of our departure. From Endik, we will be taking an airway, and there are two ways of entering airways into the flight management computer. First way of doing it is selecting the waypoint where you are expecting to get onto the airway, and select the airway. We will be taking November 873, and it will show the intersections, and our intersection in this case is INSAS. So we'll go scroll down and find it right here, select, and that will enter all the waypoints in between automatically. From INSAS, we are taking a direct to MSEV. So to enter the next waypoint, we will select the last waypoint, and then there is a new waypoint box here. We will select and enter our next waypoint and put it in the box. That should enter that waypoint. From MSEV, we are taking another airway, and I'll show you the second way of entering the airways. That airway is Papa 602. Let me clear the displays here. Papa 602, and that should take us to Pipex intersection. Papa India, Papa Echo X-ray. This is the format like displayed in the box. Via this airway, go to this waypoint. When we select this, it should enter all the waypoints in between. From Pipex, another airway, we are taking Mike 609er, and we are going to Raipan, Romeo India Papa Alpha Mike, and that will again populate all the waypoints in between. From Raipan, it is our star, so we'll select our destination airport, star. We are expecting an ILS to runway 19 right, and we are expecting Raipa for Mike arrival via Bayved transition. We will insert this. That should populate all the waypoints, and if we see a discontinuity, you cannot clear it by selecting the waypoint, because it will go into the menu. The way to clean this discontinuity is to select clear and then line select discontinuity to clear the discontinuity. So that's our routing entered. Our iris is aligned. We can go to the plan mode and check our flight plan routing from beginning. Make sure there are no funny turns, no discontinuities, and it is looking as expected, which at this point up until this far it is looking okay. And yep, there we have it. So that's okay. We have our flight plan routing completed. We'll turn the flight directors on, and I'm not sure why my displays are not coming on. I'll take a look at it. But let's continue with the flight management computer. So that's our routing complete. Iris is aligned. Aircraft is loaded, so we can go ahead and fill out the init B page. Block fuel, we can read it from the fuel panel or from the EFB. Our block fuel is 10.3, so we will enter 10.3. Zero fuel weight 102.5. 5, we will select this, and takeoff gross weight is reading 112.4. We will verify that with the EFB 112.8. That is a little bit off. 112.8. Let's plug this in. That should probably not allowed. Okay. Well, we'll live with this. And the CG is displayed here, 25.7 to 5.7 or decimal 7. We'll plug it in here. Cruise level, haven't we entered that on init A? No, we have not. Our cruise level is 370. Our flight ID is KL1455. I forgot to enter this information, looks like. Our alternate airport is Echo November Tango Oscar. And our cruise wind, I'll scroll down on my flight plan routing to see the top of climb, and the wind at top of climb is 193 at 55 knots. So that's our cruise wind. Alright, that's init A, init B. It's displaying the correct information, so that's our init page completed. Next step is to calculate our performance and set up our MCP as well as our V-speeds. So to do that, we'll go to the EFB first. We'll pull up the aircraft symbol, which will give us the performance calculation. We'll make a note of our gross weight 112.8, and we will try to remember this zero fuel weight 102.5, 112.8. Performance calculation, takeoff runway. When you click the box, it will display the length. It reads from the scenery 3400, which is correct for 18 left at Amsterdam. So we will enter this by clicking here. Runway QDM, same deal here. It will automatically detect and you can enter it here. Wind, current wind at Amsterdam is 170 at 6 knots. We will enter this. I haven't selected the box, I guess 170 at 06 knots. Enter this. Outside air temperature is 8 degrees Celsius. Enter this, and the QNH is 1030. While we set the QNH here, we will set our altimeters too if we haven't already. I have to check. I can't remember if we did that or not. Our takeoff weight, remember 112.8. We will do flaps 15, flaps and slats, anti-ice will be off, air conditioning will be on, and we will hit calculate. That will give us a flex temperature of 59 degrees and V1 135, we rotate 136, V2 161. Alright, I'm gonna check the weights again. 112.8, that's correct. Okay, we'll remember or try to remember this, and let's check our altimeters. They are not set. Let's set our altimeters to 1030. They can be linked in the settings page of the EFB. If you want to link, when you set one, all the other altimeters should be set. The airport elevation should be reading close to 0. Let's do this for the standby as well. Or you can press the B key and cheat if you want to, which I will do for the co-pilot side. Alright, that is set. Co-pilot side is not set, but when we press B, it will set itself automatically. As you see, our displays are not showing any information, and this is due to pitch trim not turned on. If you have the pitch trim off, you won't get any automatic flight displays working or showing any information. When I turn the pitch trim on, they should stay on because now we have the iris aligned and we should see the numbers coming up. Remember our speeds and the flex temperature. We'll first set the flex temperature. Let me get closer to this display. We'll select flex to temperature and we will set that to 59. That will give us 95.9 and 1, and it will also bug it for us, which is great. Outside air temperature is also shown here, 8 degrees, which we entered into the FMC. Speed, our rotate speed is 136. We can set this to 136 and then set it to 250 after takeoff. I have seen videos where this was set to 250 straight away. I'm not sure if that's accurate. And the altitude should be our first cleared altitude for our climb. And we are not using ATC today, so I'm gonna refer to the departure chart and see if we have any restrictions. Looks like we do not have any restrictions, which means we can set this to somewhere like about 10,000, maybe 1100, and we will set the cruising altitude when we pass about 11,000. Our heading bug should be set to runway heading, and heading for runway 18 left is 182, so we will bug 182 here. Let's see how fast this will move. 182 is set, and the rest will remain like this for now. Flight directors should be on. If not, we will flick the switches to the on position. It should display the FMA, flight director 1, that is fine. Flight director 2, that is correct. We'll turn on the constraints to see if we have any constraints, and if we had any, it should be displayed over here as well. We don't see any constraints, so we are fine. Alright, so that is all set. Last thing we need to do here, or last two things, is first setting the landing elevation. The elevation at our arrival or destination airport is, let me take a look at the chart real quick, 681. We will round it up to 700 and we will set this to 700 feet. That's set. And decision height, we will select -5 to avoid any false warnings from the ground proximity warning system. That's why it's done, I believe. But that's everything we need to do to set the aircraft for taxi. Last thing is to go to the takeoff approach page and enter our V speeds. V1 was 131, I believe, 135, 136, 161, 135. Oh, that's backwards. 35, 136, and 161 is V2. Acceleration and thrust reduction altitudes, you can change them if you want to, but I will leave them as is. That should be it for the takeoff. And that is all we need to do to set the aircraft. Secondary flight plan, there is nothing to do here, but you can copy the active to have it as a backup if you want to. And let me see, ACARS. Oh, you can request sim brief. It is integrated. I wasn't aware, so you can enter your sim brief name and request the flight plan using the simulated ACARS, but we are done with that, so we will not worry about it. We will keep this page at the flight plan page. We will keep it at the takeoff speeds page, and we are pretty much ready to start our APU for our departure. So to start the APU, we'll go to the overhead. Let me go a little bit closer. And here is the APU panel. We can override the fuel pump, which is not going to be necessary. It is going to show low pressure and it will extinguish. We need to turn the inner second pump, which is the one that feeds the APU. So, and then we will hit APU start. And remember the panel that I showed you, this is gonna take some time. The flap will open and then APU will start spooling up, and the start switch will show acceleration or accelerating on the switch in green. But if we go to the back, we should see the gauges moving as the APU starts spooling up. And you can listen to it from outside. The sounds, I believe, are beautiful. But there are too many aircraft around and it's quite loud. So let's just stay here and take a look at the overhead to see if we can see the acceleration over here. There we have it. Acceleration is eliminated and the APU should be spooling up. EGT is rising, N1 is rising, and we are reading oil pressure too, which is good, and we should see APU available when it starts. Again, this takes some time. Now let's take a look. It is still spooling up. We'll wait a little bit more and we should have APU available to us. APU is now available. We'll go to the electrical indication panel and select the APU generator to make sure it's generating power. Yes, it is. So now we should be on APU power. APU generator should be on, which is here. It is not displaying a fault, so we assume we can safely turn off the external power. And the aircraft should stay powered on after doing so. That is now done. We can turn on the APU bleed, which is over here. That should power our bleed system and the packs will come online. Crossfeed will turn on automatically. And we can check the temperatures and the cabin should be warming up after bleed air system starts working. It is a little bit cold, right? So we can change the temperature and make it forward cabin to a little bit warmer, and we should see it's increasing here in a little bit. We can check the duct temperature, as you see here, is warm enough, and the temperature in the cabin should be increasing momentarily. So that's all we need to do here. We are ready, finally ready for our pushback from the stand. Couple things we need to check before we do the pushback is go through the ECAM pages and make sure everything is looking normal. Engines, that's fine. Hydraulic system should be off now. AC, as you see, electrical AC system is powered. PC system is powered as well. Bleed system should be working now, except the engine bleeds, which are not working or turned off at the moment. Air conditioning, pressurization system still, pumps are off. APU should be running, flight controls, we will check it prior to taxiing. Doors, cabin door is open, and the wheels and the tire pressures are displayed here. Alright. One thing we haven't done is, I believe, let's see here, the trim. Let me see where we need to go to set the trim. I'm trying to remember that. Maybe you don't set it here, I'm not sure. No. Speed, GPS. That's climb. Okay. Second page. I don't see a way to enter the trim, because we should have a trim setting calculated for us here. Let's see, do we have that? Actually, I don't see it, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is nothing to set here, or I am just blind and not seeing it. If you know, or if I skip that, please let me know where to find the trim, and I will try to cover that in the next video when we are going to start our pushback. Alright guys, I think this is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give the video a like, and if you stumbled upon this video and not a channel subscriber, please take a couple seconds to hit that subscribe button. That helps a lot, and I'll appreciate your support. Thank you very much for being with me today. I know this was a longer video than my usual, but we had a lot to cover, and hoping to meet you again in the next episode, where we start our taxi, pushback taxi and takeoff sequence all the way up to the cruise. Again, I'll see you in the next video.